Welcome to the Conversation Lab. I'm Don Schaefer. If democracy begins in conversation, then we need to nurture a culture where ordinary people like us routinely talk about those things that help us understand each other, whether it's about climate, race, religion, gender, or politics. When we're trying to make sense of our city and the world we live in, every question comes with a set of assumptions about the nature of ourselves and our place in a larger world. The Conversation Lab provides a safe place to talk about some of those things. This program is produced by CFRO-FM in Vancouver. It's available on air and online on various platforms, and we appreciate the help of Vancouver's community groups. This radio program and podcast is called The Conversation Lab. My name is Don Schaefer. Today we're speaking with Alexa Pitoulis. She's the Interim Executive Director at Freshroots Urban Farm Society right here in Vancouver. Good morning. It's nice to see you.
You as well. Thank you. Sorry, there's a bit of construction happening outside my house this morning, so I was trying to find the quieter place to chat.
Well, you know, the construction will follow you around the house. So tell me about Freshroots.
Well, Freshroots. So I've just been at Freshroots for about 6 months as the interim executive director, stepping in while the founder and executive director is on parental leave.
Nice.
And but I'm no stranger to Freshroots. So Freshroots was one of the first organization in Canada to actually grow market farms on schoolyards. And so I actually dragged my very young children early in the days of Freshroots to both sites at Vancouver Technical and David Thompson to help dig and build those original schoolyard farms.
Was that a difficult process?
That was. I mean, I wasn't involved in the many conversations that needed to happen with all the players at the time. I just showed up to do the grunt work at that point. But I do know from the founders that whenever you're bringing something completely new into the world, it does require a lot of relationship building and trust building, and figuring out the mechanics around it, how to license or how to give authority to a nonprofit organization that is new and unknown, the trust to be working and operating on school grounds for a large, school district. So that did take, the first process, I think, took about 3 years from sort of idea to getting the farm up and running at Vancouver Technical. So we've really grown since then. Now I would describe Freshroots as an organization that cultivates educational farms on which we use as kind of the tools to then host diversity of great ways of engaging kids and youth in urban agriculture and learning all about growing food, everything around science, around plants, et cetera, biology. And then for us, such a big part is the food literacy part around learning how to harvest and prepare and share and also celebrate good locally grown food.
I read somewhere that your background is all about systems and management. So it sounds like a complex task ahead of you.
Yeah, well, I think for me, all these things are connected. Food is such a huge part of everything in our lives. And so, it's funny because we do have, at the high school level, you have the food classes, right? You can take home ec and your foods class. But, I think for Freshroots stands is we just see so much potential in there being greater opportunities for what we call food education in the regular education system, and not just knowing how to make mac and cheese, but knowing where food comes from and all the inputs in the ecosystem that are necessary for growing food. And so and then also knowing miraculously what happens to kids when they're presented with kale and broccoli that they've grown themselves or been involved in. all of a sudden they're excited to eat it and try it. And then of course, when you're on the farm with a group of peers too, everyone's eating it and everyone's making salad from it. And, it just sort of expands from there. And so I think we're really around inspiring that curiosity and lifelong learning, interest and appreciation for, nourishing foods and where they come from and what we need for those.
So I'm curious, now that school's closed, what has changed for the organization?
Well, the last year, we have actually partnered with another organization called Growing Chefs to pilot and launch an in-school educational meal program, which we call Lunch Lab. And so Lunch Lab is a program where we have it running at 2 schools in Vancouver right now, at Lord Roberts Elementary and Total Education High School, where we've hired chefs in residence to go in and work with a teacher, and they actually work in the kitchen with up to 8 student cooks twice a week, who then cook and serve lunch for up to 180 of their peers. So for example, at Lord Roberts, we've moved in this school year, before school closed, over, I think, about 60 kids in grades 5 to 7 through this cook training program, who've had the opportunity to prepare amazing meals, including a full salad bar, every Monday and Thursdays for 180 of their classmates. So that program, obviously, over spring break, we closed down, and when the pandemic hit, we had our chefs in residence, and we had these connections to the school community, and we really wanted to find a way to continuing to support the families and the students that we normally work with. So in working with the Vancouver School Board and a couple of other partners, including the Italian Cultural Center and Ono Vancouver, we've created and pivoted a program called Lunch Lab Chefs for Families, where we are sending out over 5,000 meals each week to over 260 families.
Wow.
And these are not just meals, but they are restaurant quality, chef prepared meals where, just getting a little bit of extra support to the families who need it during these very unusual times.
How do you find the funding for that?
The funding, well, there actually has been quite a lot of government funding coming through for food security programs during the time of. So I really definitely we've been appreciative of funding of funders such as the Vancouver Foundation and Social Venture Partners here locally in Vancouver, as well as Community Food Centers Canada, and just a suite of other family foundations and individual donors as well that have really stepped up to help us access money quickly, so we are allowed to be able to do this pivot. And part of this new Lunch Lab Chefs for Families program has been, for us, we work, and Growing Chefs work so closely with the food and beverage industry for volunteerism and to help support a lot of the programs we do, that we wanted to make sure that we were able to offer paid employment to our chef teams that are cooking the meals. So that is another part of it. We're hiring folks who would otherwise not be working right now.
It has to feel pretty good to be supported and to be recognized for the work you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it does. And I think that, for us, when there was just so much worry and anxiety happening in early April, especially, and we just don't even know the impacts on families and businesses in our community. They're really profound, and we knew that the Vancouver School Board had so much on its plate already to deal with, just trying to continue some forms of learning for students, that we really wanted to find a way to help support the feeding and just, bringing a little bit of joy and extra caring into some of the homes of families who need it. So that feels good. Yes.
So I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face now that we're in the middle of this pandemic?
That's a great question. Right at this exact moment, we're just, Freshroots runs a fantastic summer youth programming. We do have summer camps for kids that we run outside on our farms. And we also have a youth leadership program called Soil that's actually a 4-credit course for high school youth that we run in Delta, at Farm Roots in Coquitlam and in Vancouver. And so right now the challenge is trying to just we're a bit in the waiting game, like many others are, to kind of find out what are the next directives. How might we be able to go ahead with some form of programming? How can we offer that in the safest way possible for the kids and the families? So I think that's been the biggest challenge through this time for us is we've been so grateful to have the farm sites that we can continue to work on and to grow food, and know that our CSA Veggie Box program was sold out quite quickly, and we'll be running markets at the Italian Cultural Center every Wednesday afternoon. But our mission is to work with kids and youth and get them out experiencing what it means to be growing, harvesting, selling, celebrating, and sharing food. And so that's the part we're just we're waiting to see how we could continue to offer that programming for this summer.
So is Freshroots a not-for-profit and a social enterprise?
It's interesting. Social enterprise, it's one of those nebulous terms that doesn't necessarily, I think, a lot of different, so technically we're a nonprofit charity, but we do operate fee-for-service, types of social enterprise endeavors that also help keep our costs covered.
So can you talk about the programs or the services or the things? I saw that I could buy seeds on your website.
Our core summer business is around food production, and all of our programming, goes into that. And the youth that we have a sort of a scaffolding approach to youth empowerment and youth engagement, where we hire, sort of more older youth, more post-secondary age youth to come and be the team leaders that then are, or the camp leaders that then are involved with kind of leading both the youth and the kids programming on site. So we run a community-supported agriculture veggie box program through the summer months, where people sign up for a subscription, and then once a week they either come and pick up or have a veggie box delivered. And then at that, we're also at the market. So we'll be at the Vancouver Farmers Market at Riley Park every Saturday, starting in June. And then we'll also be in partnership with the Italian Cultural Center, which is very close to our site at Vancouver Technical, running a market there Wednesday afternoons, where we also have our CSA members picking up their shares. Out in Coquitlam, we operate on a site at Suwalk, which is it's an alternative education program based on Indigenous ways of knowing and learning. Mm-hmm. On that site, it's a fantastic site. If you ever get a chance to visit, there is an orchard, there's a healing medicine plant garden, and there's also a 7-acre forest that is on the school property that we work with youth at the school and in the community to re-indigenize in a lot of ways. So there's been creek rehabilitation, and they've actually released salmon into the water there. They've been sort of taking out the non-Indigenous plants, and there's a bit of an outdoor classroom out there, which is fabulous. But on that site, we also go to market in Coquitlam, and we do a lot of native plant sales that are propagated in the greenhouse with the students at the Suwalk School. And so those are some of the plant sales you can see online. But then when it's safe, we also do have access to those at different types of community-based markets.
This is the Conversation Lab, and we're speaking with Alexa Pitoulis. Why do you do this work?
Food system work has been in my blood since the moment I started helping my dad in the back of his restaurant, and my grandma in her big backyard garden in Edmonton, Alberta. I think in particular the work that Freshroots does, it's kind of like that. The secret sauce. Food is just a door opener to so many possibilities for learning and bringing community together. And I love the complexity. I love that we're bringing in, environmental and science-based learning. I love the experiential learning of getting kids outside and developing their